Hey guys, just before this video starts, I just wanted to say a big thank you to helping me hit 500 subs off my last video. I greatly appreciate the support. Next goal is 1,000. See if we can get me there. Thanks so much, and let's jump into it. Welcome to my breakdown on the races and sub-races in Baldur's Gate 3. I touched on the races in my beginner's guide very briefly. This will be more in-depth look at them and their traits. Your race selection in Baldur's Gate 3 impacts a few different things, and you should choose them based on what you're wanting to get out of the game. If you're looking for a chill story-based experience and you're planning to play on the Explorer difficulty, that's the easiest difficulty, I would suggest picking whichever one suits your interests, as dialogue options can change based on your race, as well as your class. I'm currently playing a few different games myself, one solo and two with some friends, and can say I've seen pretty different reactions based on my race in each of the playthroughs. If you're playing for the narrative, the specific traits you get won't be as impactful in combat, as combat will be simpler. So you won't need to worry as much about whether you pick a decent synergy between your race and class. It's still worth watching though, so you can understand how your race can synergize with the class you're interested in. If you're playing on normal or tactician, it's good to know how one race may benefit a class over another. Alright, so let's start off with our elves. With ethereal countenances and long lifespans, elves are at home with nature's power, flourishing in light and dark alike. So elves have a base movement speed of 9 meters per turn. This is only based in combat. Every character moves the same speed when you're out of combat, but in combat you can move 9 meters in your turn. You'll find that this is generally the baseline for how fast characters will move. Elves have elven weapon training, giving them proficiency with long swords, short bows, and long bows. This benefits you if you're looking at playing maybe a bard, a cleric, a monk, or a rogue. Sorcerers and wizards too, although you'd be asking yourself, why do I care about swords and bows if you're a spellcaster? The point is, if you decide to play as a fighter, the class likely has these weapon proficiencies, so you've not made any gains with this particular feature. Elves also have dark vision. Now there are two varieties of this. One is a 24 meter variety, and this one is the 12 meters, so the regular dark vision. Something to keep in mind with dark vision is that vision isn't going to play a huge advantage to you on enemies outside of that range. So if you're playing a ranger, you're in a dark location and an enemy is 20 meters away, well, having 12 meters of dark vision isn't helping you out that much, but it can help you explore those darker areas and kind of pick up on things before other party members. And finally, we have Fey Ancestry. This is the final feature which provides advantage on saving throws, specifically against being charmed, and it gives you immunity to being put to sleep by magic. This is a really strong feature. Being put to sleep can leave the team short-handed, and becoming charmed can turn an even fight bad really quick. Having a stronger chance to avoid being charmed is definitely worth considering. If you haven't seen my beginner's guide, advantage means that when the game rolls to see if you dodged this effect, it makes 2 rolls and you get the better outcome of the 2. So you get a better chance at avoiding being charmed. Alright, the sub-races we have are the High Elf and the Wood Elf. High Elves can select a cantrip. Cantrips are spells you can use anytime you want, as many times as you want. It's worth considering though, anytime you're taking a character, what character and class you're going to be playing, because your damage cantrips scale off intelligence. The lower your intelligence, the less likely you are going to be hitting with these abilities. It's still worth considering though, picking up a cantrip that provides a benefit like Friends or like Mage Hand. These won't fail when used out of combat. So for example, if you're using Mage Hand, you can use this out in the world. You don't have to make a roll to use this. It will just create the Mage Hand, and that can help you reach locations that might be out of your jumping range or away from the party. All right, and Wood Elves. Wood Elves' only extra benefit is some additional movement speed, meaning they can move further than most characters. Remembering 9 meters is the norm. A Wood Elf can run 10.5 with this slight bonus. Quite handy for classes that want to be in the thick of it, as often combat starts. If you're not at the front and center, you may have to spend a turn getting into the actions. This will be quite good for your martial classes. Alright, Tieflings. Tieflings have the same base movement speed, 9 meters, and they also have the 12 meters of dark vision that the elves have, so fairly well explained there. Where Tieflings are more unique is that they have hellish resistance, meaning they have increased resistance to fire and only take half damage from it. Something worth considering is the Tieflings you fight in the world have the same features. Something you might want to remember if you're a fireball lover out there. Now for subclasses, we have the Asmodeus Tiefling, Mephistopheles Tiefling, and the Zariel Tiefling, essentially based on which archdevil they're associated with. Now, the gameplay related choice here is that each one offers a different cantrip. The Asmodus Tiefling offers Produce Flame, allowing you to create a light and deal damage should you choose to throw it. The Mistopheles Tiefling gives you Mage Hand, which I discussed earlier. This helps you interact with things in the environment. And the Zariel Tiefling provides Thaumaturgy, which, hopefully I pronounced that right, which gains advantage on intimidation and performance checks. Now, this race is a bit unique in that there are additional benefits you don't see during the race selection. So the Asmodus Tiefling gains Hellish Rebuke at level 3 and Darkness at level 5, which can be used once every long rest. Hellish Rebuke offers pretty good damage as a reaction when you're struck by an enemy. I'm currently playing an Asmodus Tiefling at the moment. Mistopheles Tiefling gains Burning Hands at level 3 and Flame Blade at level 5. And the Zariel Tiefling gains Searing Smite at level 3 and Branding Smite at level 5. Again, single use with resets on a long rest. Alright, Drows. Again, we have normal movement speed of 9 meters. Drows, like their elf cousins, have their own weapon training. They have weapon training and proficiency with rapier, short sword, and hand crossbows. Now, where they separate themselves is they have superior dark vision. So they are great ranged classes if you're playing in dark areas, which you will throughout the game. And they give you 24 meters of vision, so double that of the other classes that have dark vision. And once again, they also have the Fey Ancestry, which I described earlier, giving you advantage on being charmed and immunity to being put to sleep by magic. We run into a similar situation with this class when we look at their weapon proficiencies. The melee-focused classes often will have these anyway, and if you're looking to being a spellcaster, then these weapons aren't really something you'd be looking to use. Now, the sub-races for the Drow are essentially story-based, meaning you may run into certain dialogue options relating to them. You're either a Lothsworn Drow or a Silverine Drow, who are essentially two different sects that conflict with one another. There's no particular benefit to one or the other from a gameplay perspective, but again, something for the role players out there, and something to consider as you're playing through. Alright, humans. Humans have normal movement speed at 9 meters in combat. They have the Civil Militia race feature, giving them weapon proficiency with spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, which have longer reach than your standard weapons, as well as armor proficiency with light armor and shields. Humans get a nice boon with the ability to choose an additional skill to be proficient in, and have an increased carrying capacity compared to the other races. Now, what we talk about in choosing an additional skill is in here with their skill proficiencies. Humans have 3 selections, so you'll get an extra selection in terms of where you want to put some additional skills, where it could be acrobatics, etc. Other races only have the base 2. Being proficient in an additional skill is great if you're playing solo and you like your custom character to be the one making all the moves. A versatile party, however, is always best, as you can't be proficient in everything. We run into a similar situation to the Drow and Elves in that the weapons benefit most when choosing a caster, but then the weapons aren't as helpful with those classes. This could be a good choice if you're looking to be a cleric, but some of their subdomains also make this relatively pointless. You'll often find some proficiencies overlap, which can feel like a bit of a waste of time, but again, depends what you're aiming for, roleplay or efficiency in combat for higher difficulties. Githyanki have a special class action called Astral Knowledge. This unique action allows Githyanki players to gain proficiency in all skills of an ability of their choice, which lasts until your next long rest. For example, if you were to choose Dexterity, you'd have proficiency in Stealth for that day, as well as Acrobatics and other aspects of the Dexterity ability. You can select a different ability each day if you choose. This is actually quite a valuable action because you can gain a great deal of proficiencies that your class wouldn't normally have, allowing a wizard, for example, to gain all those dexterity proficiencies all for free, and allowing them to change this to their needs for that day. They also have some good proficiencies, allowing them to wear light armor and medium armor with their martial prodigy. A great proficiency of classes that don't usually have these options, again like your spellcasters. They also have the option to use short swords, long swords, and great swords, which again can be quite a helpful proficiency for your hybrid classes like your druids. And of course, say it with me, 9 meters of base movement speed. The Gith don't have any subclasses associated with them, you just have your stock standard Githyanki. Alright, on to our dwarves. Now dwarves have a base move speed of 7.5 meters. Our first class to have less than the norm, I don't really understand why. Dwarves have their proficiencies with battle axes, hand axes, light hammers, and war hammers. They have 12 meters of dark vision. Again, this is shorter than the 24 meters previously on the Drow. And finally, they have Dwarven Resilience, which provides advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage. Remember, advantage means that you roll twice and you have better odds of not being poisoned in this case. It's always nice preventing damage. Dark vision is always a plus, but not something to write home about, and you'll often find the weapon proficiencies on some of the melee classes. Now for the sub-races, we have the Gold Dwarf. Gold Dwarfs have Dwarven Toughness. Not Resilience, but Toughness. This is quite a nice feature, although shown most later in the game. This provides you an extra hit point, and it increases by an additional 1 every time you level. So you'll end up with an additional 12 HP at max level over the other races, or over your other classes, given the max level is 12 if you weren't already aware. Extra health is great anywhere you go. Doesn't matter if you're frontline or backline, you'll often be taking damage, and being able to take more before you go down could be the difference between winning a fight or losing a fight. Keeping in mind, you can't run as far with those little legs, so you may need to tank an extra hit while in retreat. Oh, that's why they have 7.5 meters of move speed. Next is the Shield Dwarf, which gives you proficiency in light and medium armor, which is again good for classes that don't already have this, like the spellcasters or rogues. I'm a little surprised not to see shield proficiency in here. Finally, the Droga. I may pronounce that horribly, which gives you superior dark vision with the 24 meters, which is good again for your ranged characters when in dark environments, as well as their own resistance, giving you advantage on saving throws against illusions and against being charmed or paralyzed. Again, anything that gives you advantage on negating negative effects is always a great option for the party. Alright, moving on, we have the Half-Elf. Half-Elves, again, 9 meters of move speed. They have their own civil militia, again, what the humans have, so spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, as well as light armor and shield proficiency, which they've obviously borrowed from their half-human ancestry. We have 12 meters of dark vision, and we have Fey ancestry again, giving you advantage on saving throws against being charmed and put to sleep with magic. In terms of sub-races, we again have the variety of elves. We have the High Elf, who selects a cantrip, which we discussed earlier. We have the Wood Half-Elf, which gives you extra movement speed in combat. And the Drow Half-Elf. Now this one gives you the Dancing Lights cantrip. You can't select a different cantrip. If you choose the High Elf, you can also choose Dancing Lights. So there's an option here. If you want this cantrip, you don't have to go Drow. You can also pick High Elf. Alright, Halflings. Once again, our short kings and queens have a lower base move speed of 7.5 meters. Halflings have a great racial feature, which is Luck, or Lucky, which essentially re-rolls your dice whenever you roll a 1, which is a very helpful buff to have. Rolls occur between 1 and 20, so 1 will pop up on average about 5% of the time. If you roll a 1, this means you miss an attack or fail a dialogue check. Rerolling this for free is a huge benefit. This means you'll hit more attacks over the course of a campaign, survive more saving throws, and pass more ability checks. Sure, it won't be every fight where this is going to be a benefit to you, but over the course of a 70 plus hour playthrough, this can really add up. Halflings also have the Brave feature, which gives them advantage on saving throws against being frightened. These features are pretty nice because they aren't specific to any class. They'll benefit you no matter what you're playing, as every class uses attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws, and every class would benefit from saving throws on being frightened. Now for your sub-races, we have the Lightfoot Halfling. Lightfoot Halflings have an advantage on stealth checks, so they're naturally good as rogues who want to be hiding and harder to see on the battlefield. And your Strongheart Halflings, who have stronger resilience, providing advantage on saving throws against poison or resistance to poison damage. If you aren't looking to be a stealthy class, you probably wouldn't want to choose the Lightfoot, so it's a simple choice there. If you're going to be a rogue though, the Lightfoot Halfling is a great choice. Having advantage on stealth checks is a really good boon for that class. Alright, Gnomes. Gnomes also have a shorter movement speed of 7.5 meters. Their unique feature is Gnome Cunning, giving you advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. This is actually quite a decent feature, as that's 3 of the overall ability scores in the game and covers a wide variety of spells. Almost all the spells in the game generally come from these modifiers, and this will mean that you roll twice to try and avoid being impacted by this. If you can then link this with proficiency from the various classes, either to double up on these same skills you're avoiding or gain proficiency on other ability checks like dexterity, you can cover a really interesting amount with this race selection. This, like the Halfling Luck, is good on any class, so a great all-around selection. Although you'll want to keep in mind the lower move speed can make moving around the battlefield a little bit more tricky. And the sub-races for the Gnome are the Rock Gnome, which gives you 12 meters of dark vision, as well as Artificer's Law. I apologize for butchering that. Giving you twice the proficiency bonus to your history checks. Another all-around decent feature. We have the Forest Gnome, who again has 12 meters of dark vision. They also gain the Speak with Animals spell, which is a great option if you're not planning on having a druid or ranger in the party with this ability. There are a ton of animals in the game, so being able to speak with them is a really good option, and some of them have their own quest lines. If no one in the party has the ability, this could be a great race to select, so you have this option as you move through the world. Not essential by any means, and you can definitely go through the world without speaking to animals. You can also find potions that allow you to do this, but if you want to fully explore every dialogue option, it may be worth considering. Finally, we have Deep Gnomes. Deep Gnomes have the superior dark vision of 24 meters. They also have Stone Camouflage, giving you advantage on stealth checks. This would be an ideal race to take into the dark side streets or sneak around the Underdark as a rogue, kind of assassin character. You'll be hidden, you'll be able to see really far. An all-around good option there. Alright, 2 more to go. First, the Dragonborn. This is the race I chose for my first playthrough, currently being streamed here on YouTube, just throwing that out there. In terms of features, they have the normal 9 meters of movement. Where Dragonborn really show their features off are in their subclass variety. Dragonborn have 10 different subclasses that essentially break down into different breath attack skill and a feature of resistance to an element. For example, here we have acid breath, and then we have resistance to acid damage. Worth considering is some of them spew in a cone and others spew in a column. So essentially you'll pick them based on what breath attack you want and subclass feature. For example, do you want resistance to lightning? Do you want resistance to poison? What kind of breath attack do you want? There's some interest here. I mean, it may be worth paying attention to here what save is associated with your breath attack. For example, this is a constitution save, whereas fire is a dexterity save. Again, something of those, trying to be a bit more tactical with it. And finally, I guess just one other thing to mention. Larian discussed that Dragonborn, like all classes, have their own unique dialogue choices. They are a race less seen in the world compared to others. I can't say how much this will come up, because I haven't made it that far through the campaign at this point in time, but worth considering. I myself chose a gold Dragonborn to thematically roleplay a paladin, and they have some incredible character designs. Something I'll also point out here is that you can be a particular dragon, for example a gold dragon, and still change the color. So you can play, if you want to be blue but you really like the gold dragon's skills, you can change your colors in the character creator. Alright, and our last class is the half orc. Another race I'm currently playing alongside some friends. We have our normal 9 meters of movement speed and 12 meters of dark vision. What sets the orc apart and makes them quite appealing are their features Relentless Endurance and Savage Attacks. Relentless Endurance triggers when you hit 0 hit points. You regain 1 hit point instead of being downed. So instead of going down, you'll survive on 1 health, giving you a chance to heal and keep on fighting. I haven't paid close enough attention, but I believe this only triggers once per combat encounter, so once it happens, you'll need to keep yourself safe. And in terms of savage attacks, this increases your damage on critical hits with melee weapons, tripling the damage dice instead of doubling them. And you can throw out some crazy damage numbers when you do hit crits with this race. I'm running a barbarian with the orc race at the moment, and it is incredibly satisfying to watch a crit take out some full health enemies in one shot. This will benefit most from a build based on crits, however, because they're only going to be hitting them about 5% of the time on average if you don't build into this. Now do pay attention, this only works with melee weapon hits, so it wouldn't assist with your ranger or spellcaster builds. The Relentless Endurance, however, is good on all classes. This gives you that extra stick in the fight. It'll work with any class at all. However, I'd say the orc is best suited to your more melee based classes, given the savage attacks benefit. Ultimately, again, that's up to whether you're playing for combat, whether you need to be tactical in your combat because playing on high difficulties. If you're just role playing and you want to play an orc caster, go right ahead and have some fun with it. Alright, that brings us to the end of the race selections. Orcs do not have any sub races themselves. If I were to point out the strongest classes, I'd be looking at the orc, I'd be looking at the halfling for their unique traits, and I'd be looking at the Githyanki as well for their unique class action and feature. Of course, if you're looking to roleplay and experience the story as a certain character, make this your focus and don't worry as much about these features. But try to keep them in mind if you're wanting to roleplay as someone sneaky and you're not too fussy on race. It might be best to consider something like a gnome So you have the advantage through the deep gnome. It wouldn't be that much fun trying to be a sneaky kind of assassin or rogue and trying to roleplay as that if you're constantly getting caught out because your advantage on stealth checks wasn't present. Again, not completely necessary. Picking the rogue, you'll also get class specific proficiencies, but this can just add to that and make you a little bit more efficient. Now, if you're looking to try and find a build that's combat efficient, pay attention to what overlaps. Again, we talked a little bit about elves having weapon proficiencies. If we then go in as a class and choose a fighter, you'll find you have all those proficiencies anyway. So for example, if we change away from that and go Dragonborn, we go back into fighter, you can see we have simple and martial weapon proficiencies, which cover most of those that you would get with an elf. So something to pay attention to is what proficiencies your classes have versus what your race will bring with you as well. All right, I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been helpful in some way. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you could hit the like, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know what race you're playing. I'm really interested to hear from you guys. Thank you again for helping me hit the 500 sub goal. I hit it off my last video and I can't be more grateful to you guys. Next step is 1,000. See if we can get me there. See you guys in the next one.